Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Unplugged. Great to be back on. It's been a few days since the frustration of Friday night, but frustration probably sums it up. A difficult night at the office in terms of the end result. It felt like a game that we were chasing and had every chance to catch, but just couldn't quite get our noses in front, which made it a particularly annoying loss. You look at losing to teams that you think are locks for finals like Brisbane and the Western Bulldogs, and you don't feel as shattered in terms of what it means for your season, losing games like that. But losing to teams around your mark, particularly when you've had every chance, are the ones that do hurt you the most. And that was disappointing. Obviously, there were a bit of a lack of dare in the second half, a few half chances in the last quarter, the Maxwell miss and other little bits and bobs that sort of went against us along the way. We now shape up for an Eagles game, and talking to Bruce Eva a couple of days ago, he said even the man on the moon knows that's going to be a painful afternoon for us in terms of, you look at the script of the last few times we played them, down by 20 points at halftime, win by 9, that type of thing, where it's a grind and an arm wrestle. And obviously they're on the hunt for their first win. You got Andrew McQualter coaching against one of his old mentors. But at the same time, the Eagles were obviously up for a big one against the Tigers, and it might be tricky for them to back that up. So we're probably more nervous about a fixture like this than we ought to be, or that other teams ought to be. We probably need to be a bit more ruthless about it. But welcoming in H, you're with us. We'll bring in Nick's replacement in a moment, who's out of action for a little while, with a well-earned holiday with the fam. But H, big crowd, big occasion at the MCG. Great to be a part of it. But yeah, that's probably our most annoying loss of the year.
Yeah, just that far away all night, pretty much. Well, just didn't seem to have that same attack from the front as we did against Frio, and we were just trailing behind for most of the night. And I was thinking that we could have maybe brought the one-on-one that we played against Frio so well into the game against Carlton a little bit earlier than what we did in the end. We did it for a little while there from some point in the third quarter into the last quarter, and that was probably the time of the game where we got on top, but just couldn't bring that same tenacity and the same attack on the other team going forward that we had that week before. But whether that's a bigger ground, whether it's a bigger occasion, or Freo were completely useless that night, and Carlton, they should be a better team than what Freo are. But yeah, it's not that we shouldn't have beat something that we could still do. So yeah, was frustrating just getting a reasonable start, but then just being behind all night, trying to peg them back, and they come back at again to this. And Sinclair's goal, you sort of think, hang on, there's a chance here, and a couple of players down on their bench, and okay, let's see if we can overrun them here, and just didn't happen in the end. The big forwards and that we knew that we might struggle with, but yeah, it's a frustrating one, as you say. One that we'll look back at later in the year and maybe go, if we just pinched it or something, it would have been great. But yeah, it's one that a lot of people may not have gone in thinking that we'll get a result, but I reckon a lot of people thought we could have.
Phil Deladakis in place of Nick Splitter, who's out of action for a little while. Phil, nice to have you on as one of our super subs in the green vest. Your thoughts on it? It was one where we probably got what we deserved in many respects. We didn't take it on when we needed to, and we didn't take our chances when we could have. The interesting one is the injury front for Carlton. I reckon sides, when they're backs to the wall with a few players down, they actually win more often than they lose for whatever reason. It seems to be an exception that they get overrun. So I guess they were always going to steel themselves a little bit for it, and we probably should have handled it a bit better.
Yes, I think that's a very good summary. Look, it's great to be back with both of you, and I hope Nick and the fam are enjoying their holiday wherever they are. My overarching view was I felt that the team was timid. I felt that they struggled with the expectation of going into the game with people thinking that they should win. Now, it wasn't everybody, but I think there was enough people, enough noise to say that St Kilda had a very good chance of walking away with the 4 points. And I think if you have a look at the 4 games that we have won, with the exception of Richmond, and that's certainly not to be disrespectful to them, all 3 games that we've won, we were the underdog. And I just wonder whether or not there's a bit of freedom that the players have when they go in as an underdog without that expectation, and it allows them to be a bit bolder, a bit freer with their movement. And I think that comes with both maturity and experience for the younger players. And I think it's not a surprise that, again, in every one of our wins, it's been our younger players that have actually led the way, not our older ones. And in every one of our losses, it's because the younger players have not been able to maintain that level of form, and the older players didn't step up either. And so, again, I think that's emblematic of a young team that's still learning. I'm not making excuses for them, but there are going to be those peaks and troughs, and the only thing that changes that is time and games and maturity being in that moment.
All right. Yeah, look, I certainly hope they could get that out of their system. Obviously, if they want to go anywhere as a group, that they need to shake that tag of being able to handle situations where there is a bit of expectation on them. And the midfield mix, which Ross has spoken about a lot, is an interesting one when you factor in you got the senior group in the middle, Steele, McRae, Hill, and then the young group in the middle, Garcia, Boxall, Windhager to a degree, 3rd or 4th year player, ditto Owens when he goes through there. But if you look at it on the weekend, looking at young players, Garcia's had, I think, 11, Boxall's had 10, Windhager's had 13. And at the other end of the spectrum, Steele battled hard with 21 or something, McRae 23, 24, Hill 19, but really struggled. So I think, unfortunately, when you've got kids, if they're having quieter games, they're obviously very quiet games, and it'll be interesting to see how they, work with, say, Hunter Clark or what they do in that space. Like on one hand, you look at Boxall thinking, would he be the one who goes out? But there's the other part of me that's obviously like, I hope they don't. I hope they do persist with him and do try it in that space. But yeah, it was at times frustrating. But H, I'll put it to you in terms of Dougal Howard's hamstring injury, which we've learnt about. Like, he injured it in the Carlton game. Was there any evidence that Dougal Howard had come out of that game with a 7-week hamstring injury?
No, well, talking about that, and it was just like, I don't remember seeing him go off, but then you sort of put 2 and 2 together and you go, oh, okay, that's how Mackay got so loose in the forward line. Howard wasn't there. Because I'd seen him creep up to the forward line right towards the end there sort of thing, and I'm assuming I don't know, he's done it while he's down that end of the ground because he wasn't standing anywhere near Mackay because he kicked that with about a minute and a bit to go. So, that's clearly when it's happened and when he's hobbled off. Not something you go, okay, well, expected that sort of thing. You hope it was, if you did see him go off, you'd probably hope it was just a small thing, but clearly it's coming out now that it's, a much bigger issue. So, it's a bit annoying. He's come back. He's played pretty well. He's driven Mackay into the ground a couple of times, which were quite nice tackles, and showed a bit of oomph in the back line and gave us a bit against the big, tall forward line that they've got. It was a little bit of a mystery. And the other one that surprised a few, I think, was Higgins. A couple of different things came out. There was the report that he was crook, and then there was a replay that showed him hobbling, and everyone thought, oh, has he done a hamstring or something as well? But as far as I'm aware, he was just not feeling well during the week. He started okay, but must have just gone downhill later in the match.
Yeah, look, he's not on the injury list, but neither was Mason Wood last week, and I guess that's the interesting one Phil, in terms of what the bigger blow for us, game on the line, spent a lot of the last quarter within a kick or two, Jack Higgins, your match winners off the ground, or Mason Wood, and we still haven't had an explanation, I guess, entirely for this. I mean, putting two and two together, it seems logical, but he missed a week with concussion. Ross Lyon says at the presser that he passed all concussion protocols and had no signs anymore, and he doesn't play. So I'm like, well, was that accurate? Did something else happen late? Did he twing something? Did he have some concussion things that popped up later, which is a worry? But he was a massive out in terms of our connection in that game, and I just found it interesting that there wasn't a lot more scrutiny on that, because if you miss 2 weeks with concussion, something's gone wrong there, I would have thought.
So my understanding is that the second week he missed, the Carlton game, was due to his neck. As part of the concussion, he suffered some kind of injury or ping to his neck, and so the doctors were being cautious with that, waiting for him to be pain-free. Obviously, the neck is an area that's pretty susceptible to injury, and it's not well protected. And so I think that's where their caution came from. And I read that from Shay. Shay had been at an event earlier before we've done this recording where he was speaking, and he gave that summary himself.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was badgering Bruce Eva all day because he said, I'm interviewing Mason Wood tonight. And I said, this has to be your first question. So I messaged Beaver before, but it looks like I've just got the answer from you via Shay, who was the Angels, the Angels event. Yeah,
and I think you can claim that credit, Parko. So well done to you. I think to answer your question though, I think Higgins going off significantly altered our structure going forward. He was clearly the object, so the idea was, if they weren't marking it, to clearly bring the ball to ground or look to him as a leading target. How often do we see him pretending that he's some kind of 6'9" forward and then saying to the other guys, get out of my way, the way that Plugger used to back in the day? So I think him going off actually altered our structure, and we just didn't adapt. I mean, we kept kicking the ball long and the ball would just rebound. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I got quite frustrated by the fact that it looked like a bit of aerial ping pong for half the game. And then there was some skill errors, of course, but it was a tough game. I'm not sure it was the toughest game I've ever seen, but there were some pretty strong tackles and rundowns, and so from that perspective, I'm not potting the boys. I think they gave effort, but again, I just think that they played within themselves and were in their shells, as I said earlier.
We always talk
in what I thought was a timid performance.
We always talk about little things, H, and there are things that remind us. Obviously, Perno gets off the chain for 10 minutes. Mackay with a couple of crucial goals. We don't have our monster forward that could have done that. It's annoying, but then you look at Carlton kicked 2 goals in the last quarter, both sort of clutch kicks from 50 or beyond the arc. We don't tend to take those shots. I think, or depending on who the player is. I mean, we had Steele, I think, had one about 52, 53 metres out, sat it up. Mitch Owens, similar, sat one up. We had those half chances where Hall was running through 50 and missed. Ultimately, it's those little things. But I do wonder sometimes where we try to hit up too much when, if the option is 50-50 in front of you, you're almost better served to have a shot for goal, I reckon.
Usually, yeah. There's the whole thing of, you either go for it or just hit something a little bit closer to you than that nothing ball that just sits at 15, 20 metres out and does nothing. It hits the ground, and if you don't have a crumb of air, it's either going to be a ball up or they're running straight back and out again. The one that I reckon we were just talking about a minute ago that we missed the most was Mason Wood, just being that middle player, just in that area of between 50 and 70, being that second hit-up player, just to get that ball there and either be that one that hits those targets, because that's where he sits. That's where he takes these marks, and then he finds the targets, or he just drops that little bit deeper and takes it 40 metres out and has the shot at goal, or he fills that gap, and it was glaringly missing. Every time I went in there, I was just like saying, that's a ball that Wood would have taken. That's a ball Wood would have taken. He would have got that there, and he would have hit a target up, sort of thing. It's just so many times you would have gone, we'd love to have seen him being the one with it at that point. Because he's got those smarts, and we just didn't have him on the night. It was, either blazing away and not using a option. I think there was, I can't remember who the picture was, but there was a stage in the game where I think we had three players. One had just taken the ball and had two runners. They blazed away and we turned it over. But it could have given off to one of these two runners, which I'm sure was Wilson and Hill or something. And I think it might have been even Owens who was the one that had the ball and, didn't give it off. And I'm pretty sure the ball went in and they just picked it off and ran back out again. It could have been a easy handoff and one of those two run in and either hit up a target or a short target or go long and kick the goal. But it's just, as you're saying, a few decisions probably what cost you on the night. It just not taking that right option. And it's just that's I guess that's what a better team will do to you. They'll force you into those decisions, and we didn't adjust from the previous week, and we got to make sure that when we come up against a better team, they know what they're doing. We have to know what we're doing at the same time.
We'll talk about a couple of the Carlton boys in a minute that have been linked to us. Obviously, to Koning. Silvani's actually another one for obvious reasons. If you think about the connection there, but obviously I was thinking of that because Jack Silvani coming in as Wood didn't come in, I thought was crucial. Obviously, he takes a couple of intercept marks, and we don't have the player that can impact that. But again, that's not taking anything away. There are little things that were opportunities to get it done. In terms of votes, probably a tricky one, I think, to definitively settle on, say, who your best six was over the course of the game. There are a few names that definitely have to be in there, but if I was to separate my 10 votes, I probably had Nas, despite a couple of turnovers. I gave him 2 votes as equal best on ground. I thought Rowan Marshall in the end got on top of De Koning, and I thought it was one of his better games in a little while. I gave him a couple. Jack Sinclair, pound for pound, probably our best player, but I gave him 2 votes as well. And then 4 singles. I thought Ryan Burns played probably his best game for the season. I thought Darcy Wilson, I know he's got his critics and some of his ball use can be iffy, but 24 possessions, second most he's had in a game, gave us a bit of run. Kel Wilkie fought back after that Curnow purple patch to certainly get a vote. And I thought probably Jack Steele just in a pretty good battle in the middle with Cripps and Co. and some of his tackle pressure, so he probably squeezes in for 1 as well. Phil, how did you spread your 10?
You're a little bit more generous than I was. I had room for 5 players. I gave 4 votes to Naz. I thought he was clearly our best player on the ground by some distance on the night. I think everything that he did that was creative resulted in a promising attack, and anything that he stuffed up, well, at least he was trying something. I gave 2 votes to Sinks. Maybe not our best player on the night, but I still think he's our most important player. I think Marshall comes in and out of games at the moment. He hasn't had the season that he had last year, for example. I think you're being overly generous with your remarks. I think it was a tie in the end. I thought he got his pantsed, that he got pantsed or had his pants pulled down in the first half against De Koning, but I thought that he took the chocolates in the second half to call in boxing parlance a draw. So 4 votes to Naz, 2 to Sinks. I gave 2 to Stocker. I just love what he brings, and I think that he is that toughness that you need in the contest, that never say die attitude. And I know this is a cliche, but if I was going into war, he'd be one of the first people that I would pick to be standing next to me. I gave one to my man, Cooper Sharman. I just love how he's developing. It's like a light switch has just gone on, and he knows that not only does he belong, but he deserves to be there. And so I just see what he's doing week in, week out at the moment as being really exciting, because I think he's only just scratching the surface about what he can deliver to the team and what he can do with his own performance. And then the last vote that I gave was also to Darcy Wilson. I think he's been very unfairly judged by some of our supporter base. He had, as you said, 24 possessions, but he did it at 70% efficiency. So people were. I was reading some of the remarks on Twitter or X, and there were people suggesting that he was chopping it up more than a guy in the forest with an axe, and I just didn't see that. And again, I will always err on supporting a bloke that tries to make something happen, even if he makes a mistake or coughs it up, as distinct from somebody who tries to play it safe and chips it sideways or hand passes in a contest to somebody who's still under the pump rather than trying to make it happen themselves. So they were my 10 votes.
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair on Darcy. I think it's been at times overblown, some of the criticism of him this year. But H, how did you spread yours?
Similar to what you gave out, I gave one to Marshall. I thought he deserved one on the night. It was equaled, if not beat, to Koning. So, yeah, gave us enough in the middle to show that he's. It depends on how we would want to play it if he eventually came over, sort of thing. It'd be an interesting one to see how it goes. It's one thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about, going, "Oh, why would De Koning come over and play for us if they beat us?" And it's like, well, if he played for us, would we have beaten them? That's the way they turn around on him. One to Wilson also. Yeah, as you're saying, I reckon he had a great game. He's had a couple of games where he's been a little bit iffy this year so far, but I feel like he turned around the time, and the spoil that they gave the free kick against him on in the square, that was quite ordinary call, to be honest. That probably the down part of his night, that giving that away when he's trying to defend a big forward, and he was the only one back there, and for what I thought, I reckon it looked like he did a pretty good job, but not the way that they saw that one, or multiple calls on the night. One to Mitch Owens, he gave us a fair bit, gave us a target, gave us a bit of run, and I thought he had a reasonable game. Burns played a good game too, I thought. He's running through the middle there, found a few over spaces, gave us a bit of a chop out here and there, as he does, and probably one of his better games for us this year. One to Steele as well. It did pretty well on Cripps. Cripps wasn't as impactful as a lot of other games that he plays, and they basically just ran one-on-one all night, and probably almost split the night between them, and that if he did get away with, like, Cripps didn't get away with holding every contest, it would have gone his way, to be honest. But yeah, two to Naz. He's just a couple of turnovers too many for a good night. Maybe just tried a little bit too much a couple of times. You've got that skill, you've got that beautiful kick on you. Just do the simple one. Don't. A couple of times it was just like, you didn't have to try that. You didn't have to, I guess, look for that. There was probably a better option ahead of you rather than this little dinky kick out the side or whatever. So it's just a couple of decisions that just maybe went against him on the night, that he could have been almost a match winner. And three to Sinclair. Great game. It's led from, he started in the back, moved to the centre, changed the way we were playing. That Crumbing goal is probably one of the best goals you'll see. That was, I haven't seen a player hit a pack that quickly for a long time. It just parted, and he was. I I think he might almost could have missed it, thinking, how did I get all that space? He would have just been shocked by how he got through so easily. So to put it there and to put us in the hunt right at that moment, yeah, it was quite happy with the game he played.
Yeah, it reminded me of a couple of things in that. It reminded me of the goal. I think it was a goal that Schneider kicked in the prelim where we beat the Dogs the second time in 2010, where he picked up the ball in the pocket, had I think 4 Bulldogs around him, and ran past all 4 of them, and then in the end was in the goal square, 20 metres in the clear, and you're like, how did that happen? And he just sort of walked it through. But yeah, I thought the Wilson free kick was the second worst of the night, behind the one against Wilkie in the first quarter, which I still have no idea what the umpire saw there. That was an extraordinary decision. I assume he paid holding the man, but I don't know exactly where that was.
Yeah,
but
where he was holding him,
yeah, that looked like a player trying to push off on the lead, and fair play to Kerno, but Wilkie didn't do anything wrong in that. But we look now to the Jason Blake Award. On a night like that, and a dour night, there's obviously a few people that sort of can hold their head reasonably high that didn't get votes. H, starting with you, who gets yours?
I had to look through, and I was a couple of names I was just thinking of where could I go, but for consistency and not really hearing a name yet, and I didn't quite just base it on this week, but yeah, Maxi Hall, I'm still enjoying what he's doing. He's not getting any, I guess, nods by many news outlets or anything for what he's doing. He's still, I mean, he's only just in his, 9th game, but he can't get any of the, I guess, the Rising Star Awards or anything like that because he's too old for it and that. So he's not really getting that notice that a lot of players will sort of do 9 games into a career. So, yeah, he's playing some nice football, and yeah, let's just keep him out there because he's a little bit of X factor there, and hopefully that's just going to keep building. Hopefully he can be someone who gives us a nice maybe a goal a week kind of thing, and 15 to 20 touches a week, and just changes a game of his own boot at times. So it's he's turning into a nice little pickup for us, and he's good little player.
Yeah, he played a good game. I apologise to him. I confess to being angry at him for a couple of days after he missed that shot in the last quarter, which was crucial. But hasn't done much wrong over the course of the year. Phil also wanted to give a shout out to Mike at the Traff Pub, who I was having a chat to him last week. He says it all the time. He's a kindred spirit of yours. That a bunch of Saints fans, including him, was sitting around at the pub a few years ago, and they had to nominate a Saints player as theirs to watch for the future, and his was Cooper Sharman, like yours. So he always reminds me of that chat. So who's your Jason Blake Award?
So you introed Jason Blake as somebody that didn't get votes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just had to do a mad scramble to take Stocker off the list, and I'm going to give my Jason Blake this week to Ryan Burns. Again, I think most people say that if Ronnie Burns is the answer, God help us with what the question is. But right at the same time, we need to be fair. If the kid does his job, if he performs well, then he deserves for us to actually applaud him and pat him on the back and say, well done. It's not fair for us to try and target a player that we think is a perennial underachiever or a non-performer. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, that that's Ronnie, but I'm just saying that supporters can be merciless at times. And I think that maybe I'm a bit on my soapbox, given that it was Spud's game, and I think we haven't discussed it, but it's obviously a super important issue, especially, forgive me to all of our female listeners, but especially for men, because historically, even now, men tend not to talk about their feelings and about how they're going and when they need help and reaching out. And so I think that for us, we need to be more supportive and encouraging of other guys and being supportive and positive. That's what I was looking to say. And so I'm giving the award to Ronnie Burns because I thought he was pretty good on the weekend, and I think we need to both acknowledge that, and for those supporters out there that target a particular player, and that's for all clubs across the league, not just St Kilda supporters and St Kilda players. I think we need to actually have a bit of humanity about us, and realise that these guys are human beings and they suffer the same issues that we do, and things affect them differently as it affects everybody differently. And so, off my soapbox. There you go.
No, I like that shout. And I think Ryan Burns squeezes every drop. He's a good Jason Blake shout. I don't think, and there are certainly plenty who say it, but I don't think he underachieves. I think, you can question where he sits in terms of the overall level, but I think he squeezes every drop out of himself, which is all you ask of anybody, really. And Liam Stocker's the classic example of that. I wanted to give mine to a guy who probably doesn't get this award too often because you're used to him being, a flashy X factor, one of our top players when he's up and running. But I thought just Filippo and his comeback. Obviously, he didn't dominate through the middle. He spent most of the time forward and pinched hit a bit, but just looks like he's going to change the dynamic of us a little bit. He, kicked a couple of clutch goals, showed some really good energy, used the ball really well. It was a good sign, I think, of what he might look like for us for the rest of the year. So hopefully we see him on Sunday spend a bit more time in the middle. And if you look at it, the balance between our young and old, I think he would certainly help that in that group. Now, I know we just spoke about not potting players, and I don't want to take this as a potting of a player, but the Shannon Knoll Award for who needs a little bit of a lift, I've said this about this guy a couple of times, and the reason I say it is because of his importance to the group. Now, for anyone who watched Sandringham on Saturday night, we've sort of exchanged this a little bit in our text conversations. There were some good signs in that game, but Liam Henry, who had, I think it was 18 possessions, it just looked like, I don't know whether it's confidence, I don't know whether it's something else, lack of faith in his body or something like that, but it looked like he was coasting a little bit. That wasn't necessarily the best version of himself put forward, and he can be such an important player for us. We spoke about move the needle players a couple of weeks ago. Filippo's a move the needle player. Max King can move the needle for us if he comes back in. Henry can do that. Some of his really good games last year were crucial, and he's at a really important juncture. I don't know how close he is to getting back into the side. I'd be stunned if he got picked in the next couple of weeks on the basis of that, but he's got to give us more at that level and get back into the ones and really assist us. So, there's something in there, and I don't know whether it's confidence that's holding it back, but I want to see obviously a bit more out of him at that level before he comes up. Phil, your Shannon Knoll?
Yeah, so again, hugely respectful of your preamble into the Shannon Knoll Award, but I don't think a considered opinion of people that you want to see lift or you think have the talent to contribute more is potting a player. I think there's something very different there. So not that I want to be seen as giving you a pat on the back, but I don't think you need to be hard on yourself on that. I'm going to give mine to Rowan Marshall. Again, not had the season that he had last year. When he is up and about, he is the single most critical person on the field for St Kilda. He's not the best player, but he's the most critical to our structure and our performance. And when he's up and about, we're up and about. So I think, as I said, I thought the second half, he was sensational and he wiped the floor with DeConey. But he let his colours down in the first half, and we needed him there for the whole game. Now, West Coast is going to be a different type of game as well, but I think he's got the chance to really dominate and do something that, again, he hasn't done much this year, and push forward and threaten with scoring a couple of goals. And that's when you know that Rowe is really running hard and making the opposition pay. So I think Rowan can give us more, and I think that he will give us more. So going to give him the Shannon Knoll Award this
He
week.
might have to spend a bit of time forward because you imagine Caminiti goes back now with Howard out of the side, but Max Gawn a couple of weeks ago against West Coast to get 800 hit-outs and 35 possessions or something, so he got hold of them. H, your Shannon Knoll?
Yeah, again, it's a case of we know this player can give us a lot more, and we definitely saw that last week, but the first step out of a team at the moment is being the sub. The second step out of the team is probably coming on as the sub and not having a touch. He didn't have a lot of field time, but you come on, you're fresh. You're coming on as an impact player. You're coming on to hopefully change something to, have an impact on the game. But when Collard's come on the field, I didn't see the pressure that was there last week. I didn't see the attack of the ball that was there last week. I didn't see the locking down of a player when they're trying to get out of defence. He just didn't seem switched on when he came onto the field. So he's put himself in a little bit of danger there in the way of possibly being dropped. But yeah, it just wasn't what we expect him to come on and do as a sub. He's got a job to do, and unfortunately on the night didn't do it. If he stays in, let's hope that he has the Hugo Garcia turnaround and he's comes out firing and I guess puts West Coast to the sword this week and hopefully gives us a great start, or if he comes on, seals the game or gives us a nice run towards the end of the match and gives us a bit more than what we saw on Friday.
He's from WA, isn't he?
Yes.
So if you were going to give him one more game, you'd say, mate, go over there, enjoy yourself, let it loose, and perform for your family and friends. Yeah, well, but you understand what I'm saying.
There's going to be one more. I'm not saying it's a farewell one more game, but
no, but right, if he was close to being dropped this week, that's why I mean, just go out there, enjoy yourself, and show your family and friends how much you love playing football and what you can do. And I'd be more inclined if I was Ross and the team to manage him in that way.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty fair call.
I think that's a pretty big factor. The WA game dropping him for the homecoming match is probably something that they would have to consider, that they might not. They might err on that side of caution and give him that other opportunity. He went and played for Sandy, which would have been a last-minute decision. He didn't do a lot in that game, but it's obviously not ideal prep. You play the night before, and then all of a sudden in another game, he could have come on in the second quarter of the MCG, and that wouldn't have happened. So, it's an interesting one. We turn our attention to the West Coast Eagles. Obviously, our injury list getting smaller, but at the same time, new names pop up on it, like Howard for the next couple of months. Dan Butler, it looks like he'll be available, but you would suspect he would have to come back via Sandy. He came back via Sandy 6 weeks ago and then obviously re-injured, so you think they'll take the same path of him playing for Sandy and see what happens there. A couple to throw around. Phil, Hunter Clark, 24 possessions, 8 clearances, 7 tackles in his first game back. Gives us something in a midfield that's struggling. Toby Travalia had 30. Zach Jones had 30 and kicked 3. So there's a few that are obviously putting their hand up. Obviously, you can't replace Howard with Cordy because he's out for 10 weeks as well. But then you factor in things like, do they pick Keeler for structure because Caminiti goes back and Keeler has to go forward? But
is Wood going to be available? He'd probably be the one that comes in there, you'd think. So Caminiti goes back, Wood comes in.
True. So you think Wood definitely plays provided that neck's okay, but Phil, any of those others, Jones, Clark, and Travalia potentially?
So I'd love to see Travalia back in the team. Putting him on the wing is what I'd be looking to do because he's apparently got a pretty good tank as well. I've got a question for both of you, though. Does anyone think that Jack Steele is cherry ripe to be playing?
Not absolutely 100%, but I think his last couple of weeks he's looked a bit better in terms of his movements.
So
Yeah,
I thought he was much better 2 weeks ago, and then I thought his colours were lowered again against the Blue Baggers.
yeah. I didn't think he was too bad. The main thing he did on the weekend was he didn't let Cripps just break away and tear us apart like he does to some teams. He managed him quite well, and that's he got a bit of it himself going back the other way. But yeah, he's stopped Cripps basically destroying us on the night, which is a pretty tough job in it is in itself. But I don't think he's been 100% for a few years now. He's probably hasn't played at the 100% for, I don't know, even pre-COVID, I'd say. He's always been carrying something. It always looks like he's possibly just a bit half a step behind or something, but yeah, usually finds a way. But I don't see us drop him because he's not at 100%.
No. So the reason I asked the question is because I committed the cardinal sin that I tell my children never to do, never answer a question with a question, right? But the reason why I asked you that is because if he's in and he's carrying a little niggle and he's not quite at 100%, I'm not sure that we can afford to bring Hunter Clark back in just yet until we know that he's going at a pretty good rate and he's got confidence in his body and he's also got his aerobic capacity up. So I guess I was asking that question with that thought in mind. In terms of Zach Jones, we all know that when Zach Jones also is at his best, he's devastating. He offers something very different in our midfield to what we've currently got. My question is, Garcia keeps developing by having a run in the midfield. We're bringing Naz more and more into the midfield. And if we bring Zach Jones back in at the moment, do we start to restrict their development, whether we win or lose? But we need, as I said to you earlier at the beginning of the night, we need to be getting games into some of these young kids. And so whilst Zach Jones might provide us a bit of a sugar hit if he's ready to go, is that at the cost of getting those games into the kids that we need to, that will be around in 3 or 4 years for a premiership? Because I don't think any of us think that Zach Jones is going to be around in 3 years.
And that's where the Clark becomes interesting because he might be. Then you got Boxall, who you hope will be as well. So,
I thought he played a good game, Daz. I thought he was good, Boxall, for where he's come from.
From where he's come from, yeah.
And promising.
Yeah, and the week before he was terrific against Fremantle. So, yeah, you're way up. And then you spoke before about Steele. Then you look at Clark, who's not quick. Obviously, Steele's not quick. McRae's not quick. Hill is, but more of an outside player. So if Clark plays or if another inside mid plays, does it have to be at the expense of an inside mid so you don't become too top-heavy? So would Clark have to play for Boxall or would Jones have to play for Garcia or, in terms of matching up your like for like? Travalia, who would he play for? And if Wood, so obviously, assuming Wood's fit, who's the one player? Is it just Wood for Howard, or would you have to create some other change?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't see there being a direct replacement there unless Showmaker comes back in, but I don't think we're going to be doing that. It's probably going to be Caminiti, who's been playing, has played down back. Now, I don't know what the story with Oscar Allen is, whether he's going to be getting up this week or not, and I mean that makes a part of, I guess, the decision for us
as well.
Yeah,
so,
but he's probably the kind of player that Caminiti could go with. He's got the height that he's probably going to need to play on that sort of player, and so that's probably the actual change will be Caminiti for Howard and Wood up forward. So on the wing up, well, sort of wing up forward in that area, and so it's probably lucky that we have that option to swing him back there.
Being a Sunday game, I imagine we'll pick probably all of those players, and then have the extended bench that'll get cut off by Friday night. So I think you'll get Clark Travalia and Jones in, and then obviously Wood, and then maybe Howard out. They'll probably do it like that, the 4 in, 1 out, and then finalise it on the Friday. Phil, in terms of the game, so West Coast threw everything at Richmond. I'm hoping that it was a case of they saw that as a winnable game. That was a bit of a grand final for them, and it's hard for them to get up again straight away. Or the other side is obviously they might be burnt by it and think, back home we've got to finish the job. We've got to get a game that we felt that we should have won the week before. Obviously, we've won the last 3 against the Eagles. I can't see this going any way other than the way the last 3 have gone, where it's a frustrating dogfight. Where there are times where we look like we'll lose. There are times where we look like we're safe, but we're not. And hopefully we come out on the right side of the arm wrestle. I mean, it could go differently. We might be comfortable. It might be a Richmond game. Who knows? But I just get the feeling it's going to be one of those scraps from the last couple, and I think we'll probably win. But I don't think it'll be comfortable.
So put it this way: if we play at our best and West Coast play at their best, we come out on top. But we also know, both having watched Brisbane versus North Melbourne in the draw, that if any side is just 5% off their game and the other side they're playing is going still at 100%, then that's enough of a difference to make any team not only competitive, but also potentially successful. So, again, understand the concern, but if St Kilda brings their performance, then I'm confident that the club will be fine, and I'll be tipping them absolutely with confidence.
Generally, we win games where when I say games we're expected to win, games where we're relatively strong favourites. Some of those 50-50s we've had a hard time with, but it just doesn't feel like it'll be a steady afternoon, but we should win.
We probably make it more of a struggle than what it needs to be. That's pretty what it gets down to. Whether we go in going, all right, we just got to get over here and get the points and come home again, or we generally struggle travelling. It could be somewhere between there as well. Lasting on, well, it's the middle of the day on a Sunday over there for this time, but lasting Sunday on our time of the in Australia, and so it's are we having trouble with that travel over there? It's always a bit of a as we say, there's a bit the noise of affirmation over there with the constant booing that will be if we've got the ball or get a call our way, or I don't know. Anything happens, they boo. So it's it's not an easy thing to do for sure. But they've just been over here. They go back. We'll go over on, I'm assuming, Saturday, and could it be Friday? I'm not sure, but they might have a training session over there Saturday, possibly. But it's just a case of just got to do everything right, and on the day, possibly we go over there and blow them away. But it would be just not surprising at all if we scrape over the line by 2 goals or something. It's that kind of thing that we do over there. So it's a hard one to call. It's like, all right, maybe go middle ground, call it hopefully a 5-goal win, and go, all right, we've done it. That's what we want.
We have a hard time. Obviously, the key when you play over there is to shut the crowd out early. If you jump them and you're 5 goals under half time or whatever, which is the exact opposite of what we've done the last few times. Generally, we've been 4 goals down or something. But hopefully, Ross has them with the right attitude and they can, do the job that they're supposed to do and expected to do and avoid the banana peel, which it undoubtedly is. It's going to be a fascinating weekend. Hopefully we can get to 5-5. I think we did say at the start of the year that 5-5 was a good point if we could get to that based on injuries and the draw. And this is obviously the final box to tick to get to that 5-5 mark through 10 games and see what the back end of the year looks like. Phil, thanks for jumping on. We'll obviously have you over the next little while, hopefully, if you're around, given Nick's absence for a little while. That's a stunning beanie, by the way, for those who.
Thank you. Covering the mitts on my ears as well. No, be delighted to be back. Can I just finish on? I was down at the club on Monday, and it just as chance or luck would have it, the AFLW team had their first session back, and so it was great to see the women out on the track. And best of luck to our Saints AFLW team as well.
Absolutely, a big year for them, obviously, after the promising start last season. And all the jungle drums around SEN and the like, by the way, suggest that the Tom de Koning deal will still happen. So not that was necessarily going to be shaped by Friday night, but they all feel pretty confident that that's a fairly done deal. And as we said, Jack Silvani, for obvious reasons, seems to be linked. And then you look at Leka Lear, Miles Bergman, who's about to have the Godfather offer put in front of him by Port, and then it's up to him whether he wants to stay, and then a couple of others that obviously float around. But we'll look forward to those, and we'll look forward to the weekend ahead. Go Saints.